Welcome to Quiet Historian, where we close our eyes, listen, and fall asleep to quiet history. I'm your narrator for the night, equal parts history nerd and pillow enthusiast. Tonight, before the first pitch, let's drift backward to 1903, when the first ball left a pitcher's hand and hope found a home on a dusty diamond. To the heroes, the heartbreaks, the noise, and the silence between innings. This isn't just the story of a game, it's the story of how a nation learned to dream in 9 innings. Before we begin, if you truly enjoy these stories, hitting like or subscribe helps me keep making them, and hopefully helps you keep drifting off. Let me know where you're listening from tonight. I'm always amazed by the places people tune in. Now, get comfortable, take a slow breath in, and let it out. Let's head back to 1903, where it all began. You sit beneath the tall lights of an empty stadium, their glow settling like quiet moonlight across the field. The air feels still, as if the game has only just ended and the world forgot to notice. Rows of seats curve into the darkness, each one holding the ghost of someone who once believed. You listen. At first there is nothing but wind brushing against aluminum rails. Then faintly, in the distance of your mind, you hear the echo of a crowd, the rise and fall of voices, the rustle of paper scorecards, the heartbeat of a century folded into sound. This is how the game breathes when no one is watching. The grass is trimmed, short and sweet, the infield dirt raked into careful patterns. You look toward home plate and feel a small tug of gravity, as if the earth itself remembers every pitch that ever crossed that space. You close your eyes, and when you open them again, the modern world has faded. The lights dim, the scoreboards vanish, and the year has changed. It is 1903. The first World Series is about to begin, and baseball is still learning what it wants to be. 2 leagues, 2 tempers, 2 dreams of order in a restless nation. The National League, old and stubborn, clinging to its crown. The American League, young and bold, demanding to be heard. For years they have stolen players and pride from one another, their presidents trading insults in the newspapers, their fans choosing sides as if the game were a kind of religion. But now, for a moment, they have agreed to meet on a single field. You see Ban Johnson, broad-shouldered eyes glinting with the calm of a man who knows that patience wins more wars than anger. He founded the American League with the promise of decency, higher pay, and a touch of dignity for men who swung bats for a living. Across from him stands Harry Pulliam of the National League, a diplomat by temperament, wearing a wool suit that catches the October wind. Together, they have built a fragile bridge, a peace made not of signatures, but of hope. The champions will play for 9 games. No trophy, no anthem, only the chance to prove that unity can be louder than rivalry. Boston will face Pittsburgh. The Boston Americans, led by the great Cy Young, and the Pittsburgh Pirates, commanded by Honus Wagner, whose hands seem carved for holding both wood and history. You can smell coal smoke drifting from the factories beyond the park. You can see a line of horse-drawn carriages waiting outside. The crowd arrives in hats and coats, their breath turning white in the cold. Vendors carry baskets of roasted peanuts, shouting into the wind. A brass band tunes its instruments by ear, every note a little crooked, every note perfect. The field is small, patchy, uneven. The bases are square pillows, stuffed with straw. The ball is darkened from use, its seams raised like the scars of labor. Players wear flannel uniforms that itch under their vests. There are no batting helmets, no scoreboards, no microphones, only the sound of wood meeting leather and the cheer that follows. Cy Young stands on the mound, steady as a courthouse pillar. He holds the ball as though weighing the century to come. Behind him, the bleachers sway slightly as fans lean forward, each ready to remember whatever happens next. Across the diamond, Honus Wagner crouches at shortstop, fingers twitching in the dust. He studies the pitcher, the batter, the way the clouds move above right field. He is both athlete and craftsman, shaping moments like a carpenter shaping wood. When the first pitch leaves Cy Young's hand, it travels not only across 60 feet of air, but across the boundary between dream and record. The catcher's mitt pops, and the crowd rises with the sound that feels older than language. Game after game, the series unfolds. Pittsburgh wins early. Boston answers back. The players spit dust and grin through exhaustion. Each inning feels like a coin flipped into time. In the 8th game, the final one, the light slants low over Huntington Avenue grounds. A chill cuts through the stands. Boston takes the lead and holds it. When the last out drops into a fielder's glove, the crowd hesitates before cheering, as though they need to make sure the moment is real. Cy Young removes his cap and wipes his forehead. Honus Wagner nods once, expression unreadable. There is no parade waiting, no champagne. The men simply shake hands and history begins to echo. Years begin to roll forward as though someone is flipping through a reel of old film. You see Ruth pointing toward the stands, a gesture both arrogant and holy. You see Jackie Robinson take first base alone beneath the weight of a nation learning to change. You see lights turn on for the first night game, the diamond glowing like a small piece of the moon. Decade by decade, the game absorbs everything. Wars, joy, invention, heartbreak. Through it all, the rhythm stays the same. A wind-up, a swing, a waiting silence. Baseball moves forward, but never hurries. You blink and the century folds away. You're back in the modern park alone again under the tall lights. The seats shimmer faintly, as if still holding warmth from the day. The scoreboard sleeps blank. You imagine Ban Johnson and Harry Pulliam standing together in the shadows, listening to the silence they once feared would never come. Perhaps they smile, knowing their fragile truce became something timeless. The wind moves softly across the grass. You rise from your seat and walk toward the railing. Below, The field waits, a mirror of the sky. You breathe the cool air and realize that every season begins with the same faith, that a ball tossed through air can bind generations. You think of the words they chose, the World Series. It sounded grand, then impossible even. But maybe they understood something deeper, that a world could live inside a game, and a game could hold the world together. You step down the empty aisle, the echoes of your footsteps mingling with ghosts. At the edge of the field you stop. Home plate lies pale against the dark earth. You crouch and trace its corner with your hand. The dirt feels cool, alive with memory. You close your eyes and hear it again. That first pitch, that first breath of unity in 1903. You feel the crowd inhale as one and exhale into history. You open your eyes. The field glows softly beneath the lights. Tomorrow there will be new players, new names, new hopes, stitched into the seams of new baseballs. But tonight, the diamond belongs to time itself. As you turn to leave, you sense the next chapter stirring, a slower heartbeat from another age when the ball was heavier, the bats were thicker, and strategy ruled the silence, the era they called the dead ball. You wake to the sound of silence, the kind that sits heavy in the air before a crowd learns how to cheer. The field stretches out before you, rough and uneven, a patchwork of earth that seems older than time itself. The year is 1906, and baseball has learned to slow its heartbeat. The dead ball era, they will call it later. Not because the players lacked life, but because the ball refused to fly. A single scuffed sphere would last the entire game, darkened by dirt and tobacco juice, until it looked more like a stone than a dream. You can feel it in your hands, soft, heavy, reluctant. The game has become a study in patience. There are no fireworks here, no grand slams, no towering arcs into the seats. Runs are earned like secrets, one stolen base, one bunt, one slide through dust. You stand behind home plate and watch the strategy unfold. The pitcher nods once, his cap shadowing eyes that have thrown too many innings. The batter crouches, calculating, waiting for a pitch he might only see once. The ball leaves the hand and disappears into a blur of air and intent. A foul tip, a grounder, a sudden sprint toward first. The crowd doesn't roar. They lean forward, they murmur. Every movement is its own kind of suspense. Even the wind seems to hesitate before crossing the diamond. You can taste dust in your mouth, dry and sweet, mixed with the smell of cigars and hot peanuts. Vendors shout beneath the bleachers, their voices bouncing off wooden beams. Hats tilt forward. Children climb on fences for a better view. It's not spectacle, it's ritual. Ty Cobb takes the field. You've heard stories about him already. The man who runs like fury in human form. He grips the bat, not with grace, but with hunger. When he swings, the sound is sharp and low, like a match being struck. The ball skips into the outfield grass, and he's already halfway to second before the fielder can breathe. He slides hard cleats first into the bag. The dust rises around him like smoke from a battlefield. The crowd erupts in something between awe and fear. Cobb stands brushing his pants and stares toward third base as if daring the world to move faster. You realize that baseball in these years isn't about perfection. It's about control. The world outside the park is moving too quickly. Cars and telephones and headlines. Here, time can still be managed with a slow wind-up and a deep breath. Christy Mathewson steps to the mound. The gentleman pitcher is uniform spotless even by the seventh inning. He wipes his hand on the rosin bag, raises his glove, and begins the slow ballet of motion that has made him a legend. He doesn't overpower, he outthinks. Every pitch is a puzzle, every batter a riddle to be solved through calm persistence. He throws his famous fadeaway, a pitch that seems to obey its own strange physics, drifting away from right-handed hitters like a whispered secret. The catcher barely moves his glove. Strike 3. The crowd exhales in admiration. The innings pass like slow tides. No one hurries. Games end 2-1, sometimes 1-0. Fans don't come for the explosion. They come for the tension. The long stretches of stillness before something happens. A bunt rolls down the third base line. The third baseman charges barehanded and throws on the run. The ball arcs through the air like faith itself. The runner is safe by a step, and the crowd cheers as though they've seen a miracle. You begin to understand that this isn't just a sport, it's a meditation on waiting. The crowd and players share the same breath, holding it between pitches, releasing it with each swing. It's 1908 now, and the city of Chicago hums with industrial noise. Streetcars clatter past the ballpark, their bells echoing through the air. Inside the stands, you watch a play unfold that will live forever in baseball's strange memory. The Giants and the Cubs, a game for the pennant. 2 men on base, the crowd roaring in anticipation. Fred Merkle, a young player at first, hits a single that should win the game. The crowd floods the field, celebrating before the play is finished. But in the chaos, Merkle forgets to touch second base. The Cubs notice, throw the ball, and record an out that erases victory. The newspapers will call it Merkle's Boner, a cruel name for a moment of pure human error. The lesson is brutal and eternal. In baseball, the details decide everything. By 1910, you can feel the game changing beneath your feet. Ballparks rise higher, wooden bleachers giving way to steel and concrete. The sport that began as a pastime is becoming an industry. Players wear crisp uniforms and travel by train from city to city. Baseball cards appear in tobacco packs, their faces frozen mid-swing, their eyes half shadows, half prophecy. Still, the runs remain scarce. Fans love the drama of close games. Pitchers dominate, spinning the ball through smoke and superstition. In one season, there will be more shutouts than home runs. You can almost hear the ball gasp each time it leaves the bat. Walter Johnson takes the mound in Washington. He's quiet, tall and almost shy. When he throws, the sound is a soft blur, as if the ball has left the ordinary world for a second. Hitters squint, swing late, and walk back to the bench shaking their heads. They call him the big train, and his fastball carries the whisper of progress itself, the feeling that something mechanical, something unstoppable is coming for everyone. But Johnson himself remains gentle, modest, the calm center of a storm he doesn't seem to notice. Fans adore him because he reminds them of what baseball still is, a place where humility matters, where hard work can still outlast flash. You walk through the grandstands, noticing how the people sit together. Factory workers beside bankers, immigrants beside old families. The game belongs to everyone. Even those who cannot afford the ticket gather outside the fence, listening for the crowd's roar to tell them what just happened. In that way, the game becomes a kind of language. Each cheer, each sigh, each long pause between pitches is a sentence in a story that never stops being written. By 1914, the world has started to tilt. A new league rises, the Federal League, promising better pay and new cities. Owners panic, players defect, and for a moment, it seems baseball might fracture again. But the war in Europe grows louder, and the nation clings tighter to the comfort of the familiar. You can feel tension under the calm. Crowds cheer harder, as though volume could keep the world from changing. Pitchers throw a little faster. Hitters swing a little harder. The seams on the ball fray faster now. It's as if the era itself is beginning to split. Then, in 1919, the spell breaks. You are in Cincinnati watching the World Series between the Reds and the Chicago White Sox. The air is thick with summer heat and tobacco smoke. The stands are packed. The newspapers call it the series of the century. But something feels off, an unease you can't quite name. Grounders roll too cleanly into gloves. Swings miss just a little too wide. When the Reds win, the crowd cheers, but you can feel a hollow echo beneath it. Soon, the truth surfaces. 8 players from Chicago had taken money to lose on purpose. The headlines scream betrayal. Shoeless Joe Jackson, a name whispered in every bar and every prayer, stands before the league in shame. Say it ain't so. A child begs him. He cannot. The scandal feels like the death of innocence. For nearly 20 years, baseball has been the one place where rules meant something. Now even those rules feel stained. The fans grieve as though they've lost a friend. You walk the field that night after everyone has gone. The stands creak in the wind, the infield littered with torn programs and ticket stubs. Somewhere in the silence, a bat rolls off a bench and lands with a hollow thud. It sounds like the closing note of an era. But endings always hide beginnings. New players are waiting, new energy rising from sandlots and steel towns. The country itself is about to burst into sound and color. You take one last look at the field, scarred and tired, but still alive. The ball that refused to fly has done its job. teaching the world to listen for meaning in the quiet. Now, you can almost hear another rhythm forming faster, louder, a drumbeat of jazz and electricity. You turn toward the stands as the light changes. The wooden bleachers dissolve into steel and glass. The crowd grows brighter, and the air smells faintly of perfume and gin. The dead ball era exhales, and the roaring 20s take their first breath. You wake to a new kind of light, bright and restless, spilling over a city that never quite stops moving. The year is 1920, and baseball has found its voice again. The silence of the dead ball years fades into a hum of invention. Cars rattle past the ballpark's horns singing like brass bands. 1,000 windows open to the smell of roasted peanuts and rain. You stand in Yankee Stadium, the newest cathedral of this fast and fearless age. They call it the house that Ruth built, though its walls are really held up by noise and the endless rhythm of belief. The stands tremble beneath the weight of 20,000 people, hats waving, voices clashing, hearts keeping time with the batter's breath. And there he is, Babe Ruth, standing at the plate like a man who swallowed thunder. He holds the bat loosely, as if it were an extension of thought, not wood. His eyes narrow, and the crowd seems to stop breathing. The pitcher winds up, throws, and the bat answers with a sound that is half crack, half cannon. The ball vanishes into the sky, soaring over fences once thought untouchable. You track it with your eyes, watching it disappear beyond the bleachers into a realm that feels almost mythic. For years, fans have waited for this moment, for a ball to fly like that again. And now, with one swing, baseball becomes something larger than itself. Ruth jogs the bases at a calm, almost amused pace. His stride is lazy poetry, his grin contagious. He tips his cap not as a showman, but as a man in on a secret. That joy can be loud and still beautiful. Every city wants its own Ruth. Kids swing at shadows in alleys. Barbershops argue about averages and destiny. The newspapers crown new heroes every week, and fans line up outside stadiums hours before the gates open. Baseball has become a mirror of the decade itself, bold, flawed, full of appetite. In St. Louis, Rogers Hornsby hits like a machine made of sunlight. In Detroit, Ty Cobb rages against time, still stealing bases with teeth bared. In Philadelphia, a quiet first baseman named Jimmy Fox learns how to make a crowd hold its breath. The names come faster now, and the crowds louder. For the first time, voices travel farther than the ball. You hear the crackle of a radio. A man in a suit leans over a microphone, his voice describing every pitch to listeners sitting miles away. Families gather around wooden radios, their faces lit by the glow of imagination. The announcer's words become music. The crowds roar the strike, called the whisper between innings. The game has escaped the stadium and entered the nation's bloodstream. Outside the parks, America moves like a jazz rhythm. Streetcars glide past theaters. Women cut their hair short and drive fast. Men buy suits in colors that look like ambition. Everything feels new, The sound of the bat fits perfectly with the saxophone, the syncopation of a country reinventing itself. You walk through a crowd after a game. Vendors still shout, but now the air carries perfume instead of coal smoke. There's laughter, music, and something dangerous beneath it all. A belief that the future can only shine brighter. Baseball stadiums mirror that feeling. They rise taller, made of steel and stone monuments to optimism. Fans flood the turnstiles, gloved hands ready for miracles. Even the umpires seem swept up in it, their voices clear and proud as church bells. Ruth keeps hitting home runs, and each one sounds like a prophecy. Some say he's too wild, too brash, too undisciplined. But you can tell they love him because he's imperfect, because he looks like the rest of them and still manages to touch the stars. In Chicago, fans rebuild their faith after 1919's wound. A young player named Hack Wilson starts knocking the ball deep, and crowds begin to believe again. In Boston, the old parks fill with laughter that no scandal can erase. The game has forgiven itself, and the people have too. You see kids selling scorecards, their voices bright in the afternoon air. You see a boy chase a foul ball down a street, his bare feet hitting cobblestone. You see a young girl sitting beside her father, glove too big for her hand, learning how hope sounds when it hits leather. By 1924, baseball belongs to everyone again. You can walk into a ballpark in Kansas City, or New York, or Cleveland, and the rhythm is the same. The slow build of tension, the shared breath before the pitch, the eruption of relief when the ball lands fair. It doesn't matter who you are or how much you own. Inside the diamond, everybody starts with the same count. You drift to the Negro Leagues, where parallel legends grow in full color. Rube Foster dreams an empire into existence, founding the Chicago American Giants and a new kind of pride. There's cool Papa Bell, so fast they say he can turn off the light and be in bed before the room goes dark. There's Oscar Charleston, Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, names whispered with reverence under the bleachers. Their games pulse with music and dignity. The crowds are fierce, the laughter unbreakable. You realize the game's soul is too big for any one league. It multiplies, adapts, survives. Even as walls divide, the rhythm connects. Baseball, by 1925, has become the country's favorite dream. You can see it reflected in the newspapers. Headlines dance with numbers. Box scores fill columns like poetry. Every town claims its own heroes. Every family tells the same story. We won, we lost, we'll try again tomorrow. Night games begin to flicker into possibility. Engineers toy with electric bulbs, imagining a day when the diamond could glow long after sunset. It sounds absurd, but then again, so did home runs once. In the stands, people dress for the occasion. Men in straw hats and women in silk gloves sip lemonade from glass bottles. The brass band between innings plays ragtime and new dance tunes from Harlem. Children climb fences to watch the players warm up, their eyes wide, their future's brighter for it. And somewhere above it all, a radio tower hums. The voice of baseball drifts farther every day. It crosses rivers and deserts, mountains and midnight towns, carrying comfort in every syllable. Even people who have never seen a stadium begin to dream in innings. You find yourself in a small diner one evening, a game humming through the radio by the counter. A cook flips pancakes in rhythm with the announcer's call. Two men argue softly over who has the better curveball. A woman by the window hums to herself as she listens. The game, you realize, has become the country's heartbeat. Then the decade begins to shimmer. The crowds grow larger, the cheers sharper. The ball seems livelier now, stitched tighter, brighter. Pitchers curse under their breath as sluggers learn new ways to defy gravity. The scoreboard lights flicker like promise. Every home run feels like a celebration of speed, machines, and progress. Every crack of the bat sounds like jazz. You can almost hear a trumpet in the distance, answering each swing with joy. In the final years of the decade, the illusion of forever begins to tremble. You notice the newspaper's shifting tone, the headlines turning cautious. The cheers still rise, but something in the air grows uneasy. It's in the long shadows across the field, the faint smell of rain before the storm. The last game of the season ends quietly. Players walk off the field, their laughter thinner than usual. The crowd lingers, as if sensing they've reached the edge of something. A few people glance back at the scoreboard, unsure why it feels important. You stay until the ushers begin to close the gates. The stands empty, leaving only wrappers and footprints. The music of the age fades into the wind. The lights dim. The field rests innocent of what is coming. You turn once more to look at home plate, that perfect white shape pressed into dirt. It gleams faintly in the moonlight, like a relic from a dream that's just about to end. You take a breath and feel the shift. The sound of jazz gives way to silence, and the laughter of prosperity turns to a hush. The roaring 20s dissolve, and the world begins to darken. Somewhere in the distance, a factory whistle blows, and the first whispers of hardship ride the wind. Baseball, still glowing softly, waits to become a refuge once more. You wake to the sound of rain on tin, soft and steady, like coins falling on a roof that's seen better years. The lights of the stadium are dim, barely holding back the gray. It is 1931, and the world has lost its shine. The Great Depression has arrived, and baseball, like everything else, must learn how to survive. Crowds have thinned. Bleachers sit half empty. Vendors count their peanuts before opening their sacks. Tickets sell for nickels, but even nickels are precious now. Still, the game continues. You hear it in the faint echo of a bat meeting wood, a small sound trying to stay brave. It isn't about glory anymore. It's about belonging. Babe Ruth steps up one last time. Older now, his body thickened by years of celebration and strain. The crowd watches him, as if they already know this is goodbye. He adjusts his cap, leans on his bat, and stares down a pitcher half his age. The pitch comes in low. He swings. The sound is different this time. Not thunder, but memory. The ball arcs through grey light, carrying the last joy of a decade that believed too hard in forever. It lands deep in the stands. People rise, cheer, cry. Ruth rounds the bases slowly, tipping his cap to a world that once believed in magic. You can feel the silence that follows him, a silence that will last for years. America has grown quiet. Soup lines stretch around corners. Men search for work instead of games, but somehow, baseball keeps going. In sandlots and empty fields, kids still throw worn-out balls to one another, still dream under faded caps. Teams travel by train from city to city, carrying hope like a fragile lantern. Radio becomes the new cathedral. People sit close to the speaker, the static hum filling the room like incense. You can hear the announcer's calm voice describing a game 1,000 miles away. The sound is enough. In that dim light, a new figure rises. Joe DiMaggio, grace in human form. He doesn't shout, he doesn't swagger. He simply moves the way people wish they could, without hurry, without fear. You watch him glide through the outfield, his stride as smooth as a metronome. When he hits the bat seems weightless. The ball leaves his swing clean. No waste, no violence. Fans whisper that he doesn't play baseball. He conducts it. And then there is Lou Gehrig, steady, humble, the iron horse. He stands at first base every day. Rain or shine, pain or strength. He never complains, never stops. Until one day he does. You hear his voice echo across Yankee Stadium, small against the walls, but enormous in meaning. Today, he says, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. The crowd cries quietly. Even the sky seems to listen. It is 1939 now, and the clouds over the ocean are darkening. The world turns its eyes toward Europe. Soon, baseball will have to share its suns with war. You stand in the bleachers as young men take the field. Some will not come back. Their names will fade into box scores and telegrams. But for now, they play. They play as if the act itself can hold off the world. Ted Williams swings a bat in Boston, a sound so pure it feels like mathematics made audible. He calls it science, but to everyone else it looks like poetry. The last man to bat 400, his perfection a kind of defiance against the coming dark. When war finally comes, the ballparks grow quiet again. DiMaggio trades pinstripes for khaki. Ted Williams gives up the plate for a cockpit. Others join them, soldiers now, their gloves replaced by helmets. You listen to radio broadcasts sent across the Atlantic. A familiar voice calls the game from home, crackling through static to reach foxholes and camps. For soldiers lying under foreign skies, each pitch becomes a reminder of normalcy, of summer afternoons and hot dogs and family. In barracks and tents, they pass around worn baseballs. Games spring up in mud and dust diamonds drawn by boot heels. Bases made of helmets. A fly ball becomes freedom for a moment. A swing, a catch, a laugh, and for a heartbeat, the war fades. Back home, women take the field. The All-American Girls Professional Baseball League begins born from necessity but sustained by joy. They wear skirts and play like soldiers, diving for grounders, sliding into bases, defying expectation with every inning. Crowds fill the stands again, cheering for Rockford and Racine and Peoria. They come not just for distraction, but for proof that the game and life can adapt. When one of the women hits a home run, the sound is indistinguishable from hope. Years pass. The war ends. Trains whistle home. The soldiers return older, quieter, but hungry for the life they left. The ballparks open their gates once more. People flood back in, carrying ration memories and post-war dreams. The grass seems greener now. The smell of popcorn feels like healing. The crack of the bat is medicine. DiMaggio returns to center field, his movements slower but still graceful. Ted Williams returns to the plate, his stance unchanged. They play for a country trying to remember how to exhale. And then quietly, something begins to stir in Brooklyn. A man steps into the batter's box, wearing number 42. His eyes are calm, his stance unshakable. He doesn't just carry a bat, he carries history itself. Jackie Robinson, he will change everything, not just baseball, but the story it tells about what America can be. You see him standing at first base, the crowd divided, the air thick with noise that isn't quite sound. He breathes, swings, runs. The game becomes human again. Braver, truer, more honest. The war is over, but its lessons linger. Discipline, courage, sacrifice. They've all found their way into the game. Players who once flew bombers now fly baseballs over fences. Fans who once rationed food now ration their cheers, grateful for peace. You walk through a post-war stadium at dusk. The lights flicker on one by one, and the crowd hums with renewal. Families fill the aisles. Children wave miniature flags. Vendors sell popcorn instead of ration bread. The air smells alive again. The announcer's voice echoes through tin speakers. The first pitch flies and the century's pulse steadies. You realize that baseball has done what few things could. It stayed. Through hunger, through fear, through fire, it stayed. You close your eyes listening to the rhythm of the crowd. It's slower now, but deeper, richer. The sound of survival. When you open them again, the lights are brighter, the camera's sharper, the microphone's clearer. A new age is beginning, one that will beam the game into every living room in America. The war has ended, the players have returned, and baseball, for a brief and beautiful moment, belongs to everyone again. You wake to the soft hum of a television tube warming to life. The screen glows in black and white, flickering like a campfire in the living room of post-war America. It is 1947, and baseball has just stepped into every home in the country. The war is over. The air smells of new paint and gasoline. Families are buying cars, houses, and televisions. Hope has become a product you can tune into. And there on the screen is the same game that carried everyone through the dark years, but now it looks new again. You watch the camera find the diamond. The angles are simple, the image is grainy, but it doesn't matter. For the first time, millions can see what they used to only imagine from radio static. The wind-up, the pitch, the arc of the ball, the crowd rising in perfect sync. Baseball has become a moving picture, and America can't look away. The first thing you notice is color, even when it's still in black and white. The brightness of uniforms against the dirt, the tilt of sunlight on a pitcher's face, the way the grass seems to glow from within. The game feels alive, breathing through the screen. Jackie Robinson takes the field in Brooklyn, number 42. His presence changes everything. You can feel it through the glass. The crowd buzzes, some in awe, some in discomfort. But history does not wait for permission. Jackie runs, slides, stands up covered in dust, and the whole country moves forward by inches. You watch his swing, his patience, his silence. He plays like a man who understands that grace is stronger than anger. Children in every neighborhood mimic his stance. Even the most stubborn hearts begin to soften. The camera lingers on his face after a game, and it feels as though America is seeing itself, truly, for the first time. Everywhere, televisions glow like tiny stadiums, bars fill with smoke and shouts. Families crowd around living room sets after dinner, mothers knitting, fathers leaning forward, kids clutching popcorn bowls as though holding Lucky Charms. The hum of the announcer's voice becomes part of the wallpaper of life. It's the 1950s now. The world feels bright and organized. Baseball mirrors it. The uniforms are crisp, the stadiums pristine, the heroes clear. In New York, 3 teams split the city's loyalties: the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Giants. 3 temples within one island of believers. You drift to the Polo Grounds, that odd cathedral of angles and echoes. Willie Mays is in center field, a comet disguised as a man. He doesn't chase fly balls, he dances with them. You watch the catch unfold, the ball arcing deep into the night sky. Mays running, hat flying, off, body twisting midair, the glove finding perfection. For a heartbeat, you forget to breathe. Moments like that feel impossible, and yet the cameras catch them now, preserve them, replay them. For the first time, baseball is not just memory, it is replayable truth. People can point, rewind, or argue. Heroes have faces, smiles, flaws. They are not gods anymore. They are neighbors on your television. In Yankee Stadium, Mickey Mantle swings from both sides of the plate. Young, fearless, the echo of Ruth reborn in Technicolor dreams. He is country charm and city chaos at once, a perfect contradiction for the times. Joe DiMaggio fades into legend, and Mantle becomes the bridge between the mythic and the modern. Across the country in Milwaukee, a quiet man named Hank Aaron steps into the box. His swing is short, pure, measured like a prayer. He doesn't chase fame. He simply repeats perfection until it cannot be ignored. The camera loves him, though he never asks for it. Each home run looks effortless, as though gravity forgot its rules for a second. He will become something larger than baseball, but for now, he is just a young man who makes hitting look inevitable. You realize that this is the first generation of immortals with evidence. Every pitch, every swing, every stumble exists on film. There is no longer just memory, there is proof. The broadcasters become as beloved as the players. Their voices carry warmth, humor, comfort. They invent phrases that will last forever. Going, going, gone. Holy cow. How about that? You could close your eyes and still see the play unfold through sound alone. The 1950s hum with prosperity. Every weekend, families pile into cars to watch games in person. Vendors return with bright uniforms and jingles. The air smells of popcorn and new paint. The ballparks shimmer like postcards. Night games bloom under floodlights. You sit in the stands watching the grass glow electric green. The ball seems to carry its own halo. Children hold programs in their laps, scribbling autographs that will outlive the paper. In Brooklyn, the Dodgers finally do it. 1,955. After years of heartbreak, they win it all. You can hear the city's heartbeat in the cheers, see fireworks reflected in apartment windows. Jackie Robinson smiles quietly in the dugout, his victory both personal and universal. A curtain call for courage. A few years later, the Dodgers leave for Los Angeles. The Giants follow. New York grieves and baseball crosses a continent. For the first time, its borders stretch from ocean to ocean. The game has become truly national, and television follows it west. You ride that westbound train in your imagination. The horizon opens and baseball becomes sunlight and dust instead of brick and shadow. California builds its own fields of faith. Children there will grow up thinking palm trees are normal backdrops for home runs. The sound of surf replaces subway noise. Back east, the camera technology improves. Games switch from black and white to color. For the first time, green really looks like green. Brown infields look warm. Sky looks endless. The simple act of seeing baseball in color feels like discovering sight itself. By 1961, the decade feels too perfect to last. Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle chase Babe Ruth's record together, two men bound by history and exhaustion. The cameras follow every swing, every headline, every doubt. It is the first true media circus, and yet somehow, the purity of the chase survives. When Maris hits number 61, he lowers his head instead of raising his arms. The crowd cheers, but the moment is quiet. Fame feels heavier now, a responsibility instead of a reward. In the South, Hank Aaron keeps swinging, each home run a seed planted in the soil of patience. His journey is slower, but unstoppable. He is building a bridge from this golden age toward something more complicated. Baseball mirrors its country again. The optimism is bright, but cracks begin to show. Television sells perfection, but outside the frame, the world trembles with change. Civil rights marches, Cold War drills, and a growing sense that innocence cannot last forever. Still, the game endures. The crack of the bat on a summer afternoon feels eternal. A man in a recliner in Ohio cheers at the same moment as a boy on a couch in California. For the first time, America watches together, breath held, heart aligned with the count. The golden age glows a little longer. Cameras pan across stadiums like temples of light. Voices rise in living rooms, echoing the same joy that began on dusty fields 50 years before. You can feel time turning again, the screen flickering, the picture sharpening. The 60s are stirring. Something new is coming, faster, stranger, louder. Teams will multiply, rules will stretch, and baseball will experiment with its own future. The broadcast fades to static. The world holds its breath. And you, still watching through the glow, feel the next chapter waiting just beyond the screen. You wake beneath artificial light. It hums faintly, a low electric tone that feels nothing like sunlight. The air smells different, cool, controlled. You look up and realize the sky has been replaced. It is 1965, and baseball has built itself a roof. The Astrodome rises like a spaceship in Houston, steel ribs gleaming under floodlights. They call it the eighth wonder of the world, a temple for a new kind of faith. Inside, grass has been replaced by something strange, a green carpet spun from plastic and optimism. AstroTurf, the first synthetic field in history. When the players walk on it, it feels wrong, like running on a lie. The ball bounces higher, the sound of each step sharper, the air dry and perfect. The crowd stares upward, awed by the ceiling itself, a dome that blocks both weather and memory. You can feel baseball changing even in its rhythm. No longer a pastoral game of wind and sunlight, it is becoming an engineered experience. Precision replaces chance. The lines are cleaner, the rules looser, the money louder. But people still come drawn by habit and hope. In this new age, heroes wear longer hair, their gloves larger, their swings heavier. They are no longer boys chasing dreams. They are professionals shaping an industry. In St. Louis, Bob Gibson stands on the mound like a storm contained in a man. His fastball is a weapon, his stare a warning. He pitches through anger, discipline, and necessity. When hitters face him, they do not blink, they pray. In Minnesota, Harmon Killebrew swings like a man cutting down trees. Each hit is thunder, each step deliberate. Fans love him because he looks like he belongs in another century. A reminder that brute honesty still matters. On the coasts, the world feels faster. California teams play under perpetual sunlight, their fans arriving late and leaving happy. Baseball is beginning to sound like surf music and advertising jingles. The stadium speakers hum with new rhythms, and the game begins to smile with television teeth. You drift through this era as the country itself transforms. Protests, music, movement. Everywhere the air feels charged with questions about freedom. And baseball, so tied to tradition, is forced to answer them too. In 1969, the leagues expand. 4 new teams join the family. The game grows to fit a restless nation. Kansas City, Montreal, San Diego, Seattle. Cities that once only dreamed of baseball now wake up to it. New uniforms, new accents, new loyalties. The Montreal Expos bring the game across the border for the first time. French voices join the chorus of cheers, and baseball becomes a language spoken in 2 tongues. For the first time, the word world in World Series feels a little more honest. In New York, something unexpected happens. The Mets, once lovable losers, find glory. 1969. Again, the miracle Mets. A team of misfits laughing their way through destiny. They win the series, and the city explodes in disbelief. It feels like baseball is reminding everyone that chaos still has charm. You sit in the stands watching the players celebrate in a swirl of ticker tape. The crowd dances in the aisles. The decade that began with fear ends with joy, and the sport that once belonged to fathers now belongs to everyone. The 1970s arrive like a burst of neon. Everything glows, the uniforms, the hairstyles, the television graphics. Even the players seem to shimmer under the lights. In Cincinnati, a machine hums to life. They call it the Big Red Machine, and it moves with terrifying beauty. Pete Rose dives headfirst. Johnny Bench commands the plate. Joe Morgan's swing is poetry in motion. Their dynasty defines precision itself. It isn't luck anymore, it's engineering. Elsewhere, the game experiments. Teams change logos, add colors, embrace flair. Pitchers scowl under mustaches. Outfielders wear gold chains that glint in floodlight. Every stadium has its own soundtrack. Now part music, part heartbeat. Free agency arrives like a revolution. For the first time, players own their future. Contracts become stories. Money becomes part of the myth. Some fans grumble, but others understand it's just another form of freedom. The designated hitter debuts in 1973. Half the country loves it, half declares it heresy. Pitchers will no longer bat in one league. Purists sigh, but television ratings rise. Baseball, ever adaptable, decides it can live with contradiction. You travel through these years as though watching evolution in fast motion. Domes rise in cities where rain once ruled. Scoreboards blink in electric colors. Fans start bringing radios to games, listening to live commentary, even as they watch with their own eyes. The sport becomes a hall of mirrors, reflected and refracted, endlessly alive. The bicentennial year arrives, 1976. Fireworks bloom across the nation. America is 2 centuries old, and baseball, its oldest mirror, celebrates in style. Bands play, Sousa marches, stadiums overflow, and fans wave flags instead of scorecards. You look around and realize how far the game has come from dusty fields and wooden bleachers. It is no longer quaint. It is spectacle, industry, inheritance. And yet, beneath the noise and neon, it still feels like the same old heartbeat. A pitch, a swing, a pause, a breath. The 1970s close with laughter, with color, with contradiction. Players fight for justice in contracts, but also for meaning in tradition. Fans love them for both. The game has learned to live in tension, between past and progress, between nostalgia and noise. You stand once more in a stadium beneath fireworks. The smoke drifts upwards, soft and grey, and through it, you glimpse the outlines of the next era, a world of heartbreak, glory, and superstition. The heroes are changing. The innocence is not coming back. Baseball is ready for the drama of the modern age. And as the lights fade, you can hear the faint echo of what's coming. Cheers that sound like thunder and hearts that break like glass. You wake to the sound of crowd noise echoing through a concrete canyon. The stadiums are bigger now, wider, colder. The seats are plastic, the air electric. It is 1977. And baseball has become a show. Reggie Jackson steps to the plate under Bronx lights. 3 home runs in a single World Series game. 3 swings, 3 explosions, and a nickname that sticks forever. Mr. October. The crowd roars as fireworks bloom above Yankee Stadium. You can almost feel the echo through the television glass. The Yankees are chaos and royalty at once. Billy Martin fumes. George Steinbrenner plots, and Reggie grins through it all. Baseball has entered its rock star era. The headlines write themselves. The cameras never blink. Across the country, fans find new allegiances. In Kansas City, George Brett becomes a folk hero, a man with dirt on his uniform and poetry in his swing. In Milwaukee, Robin Yount plays with quiet joy. In Baltimore, Cal Ripken Jr. begins a streak that will become legend. Every city finds its saint, its story, its reason to care again. You can feel baseball's pulse speeding up. The 1980s arrive with bright lights and a loud ambition. Uniforms shimmer, logos pop, and stadiums blast pop music between innings. The game is louder, faster, hungrier. Then, in 1980, something simple reminds everyone why they love it. The small team in Philadelphia, long burdened by losing, finally wins. Mike Schmidt raises his arms. The Phillies fans cry in disbelief. It feels like the game has decided to forgive itself again. The heroes of this age are messy, brilliant, and human. Fernando Valenzuela brings joy to Los Angeles, spinning fastballs and community pride. Ozzie Smith turns shortstop into ballet. Ricky Henderson steals bases like a magician snatching cards. Everywhere you look, the game has personality again. But beneath the color, trouble brews. Money grows louder, contracts grow heavier, owners lock the gates. In 1981, the players strike, the season stops. Fans stand outside empty ballparks looking through fences as if visiting an old friend in the hospital. When the game returns, it does so scarred but still standing. Baseball has learned something it never wanted to, that people can live without it, at least for a while. Yet, when the lights flicker on again, the love comes back just as quickly. You see Nolan Ryan throw his 5th no-hitter, his motion unchanged by time. You see Wade Boggs kiss home plate after another perfect swing. You see laughter return to dugouts. Forgiveness is slow, but it's there. By 1985, drama returns in cinematic fashion. The Cardinals and Royals meet in a World Series filled with speed and tension. A bad call changes history. Fans still argue about it decades later. That's how you know it mattered. You move through the late 80s as superstition grows. Players tap helmets twice, wear lucky socks, cross themselves before every swing. The game feels both sacred and absurd. And yet, you can't look away. Then, Pine Tar, George Brett's bat, sticky and forbidden, flies into baseball lore. He storms from the dugout like a man possessed, screaming at umpires, teeth bared, eyes wild. It's chaos, but it's human. The fans love him for it. It proves the game still has a pulse. The 1986 Mets take the field like outlaws. Swagger, superstition, and talent to spare. Their World Series becomes madness, comedy, and tragedy wrapped in 10 innings. Bill Buckner bends to catch a ground ball, and fate slips through his legs. The crowd gasps. The moment freezes. You can feel the heartbreak through time. The image becomes permanent. The ball rolling past the Mets, celebrating in shock. For every joy baseball gives, it demands a heartbreak to match. In Oakland, Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire hit home runs that seemed to defy physics. The Bash brothers. Baseball muscles up, and fans can't decide whether to cheer or squint. They don't know it yet, but the seeds of a coming storm have already been planted. Still, for now, there's joy. You hear the echo of Vin Scully's voice calling Kirk Gibson's home run in 1988. A man injured, limping, swinging once and sending the ball into the night. He hobbles the bases, fist pumping, a grin cutting through pain. It's pure myth, caught on film forever. Then, 1989. An earthquake shakes San Francisco mid-World Series. Cameras tremble, crowds scream, and baseball pauses again. This time, it isn't a strike. It's the earth itself reminding everyone how fragile joy can be. The 1990s open with contrasts. New stars, new scandals, new dreams. Ken Griffey Jr. makes the game look effortless. His swing so beautiful, it feels like poetry in motion. Barry Bonds begins to hit balls farther than anyone since Ruth. Cal Ripken keeps showing up day after day until his streak becomes scripture. You watch the nation change around the game. Cable TV, marketing, endorsements, baseball becomes a brand. Kids wear jerseys of players they've never seen in person. The players become symbols larger than life and sometimes larger than truth. Then comes 1994, the strike. Another silence, but deeper this time. The season ends without a champion. The World Series disappears. For the first time in generations, autumn arrives without closure. Fans feel abandoned, betrayed, adrift. You stand outside a locked stadium, pressing your hand against the gate. There's no sound, no music, no vendors, just wind and memory. The diamond sleeps beneath dust. Baseball, the one constant in a century of chaos, has broken its own promise. For a while, you wonder if it will ever come back. The newspapers grow cynical, the talk shows sneer, but somewhere a kid still throws a ball against a brick wall. Somewhere someone still believes the sound of a bat can heal. You close your eyes, the crowd returns in your mind slowly like a tide coming back after a long storm. You know redemption is near. The game always finds a way. The lights dim, but not forever. The field waits, the hearts wait. And in the distance, you can already hear the first whisper of resurrection, a new age of power, temptation, and salvation. Segment 8, Steroids and Salvation. You wake to a quieter world. The strike has ended, but the silence still lingers in the seats. The fans have returned, though some out of habit more than faith. The grass is green again. The lights hum, but something in the air feels watchful. It is 1995, and baseball is trying to remember how to smile. You sit among cautious crowds, faces half hopeful, half skeptical. Vendors shout again, scoreboards blink awake, and the old rhythm begins to pulse beneath the noise. In Baltimore, a man quietly begins his run towards sainthood. Cal Ripken Jr. plays one game, then another and another. The numbers add up like beads on a rosary. 2,131. When he finally breaks Lou Gehrig's record, the game stops. The crowd stands for 22 minutes, applauding the simplest miracle of all, showing up. In that moment, you can feel the old trust returning. It isn't a roar, just a collective exhale. Baseball, battered and bruised, still knows how to honor devotion. Then the silence shatters. In 1998, two men begin to chase the impossible. Mark McGwire in St. Louis, Sammy Sosa in Chicago. Each swing sounds like redemption. Each home run like thunder after drought. The crowds swell again. Voices roar from wonder. America tunes in. Baseball, against all logic, is forgiven. You watch the balls soar into night skies, red arcs of salvation. Maguire's forearms look carved from mythology. Sosa's smile lights entire neighborhoods. They hug after breaking the record, and for a few shining weeks, it feels like the country has rediscovered innocence. The cameras follow every step. 61 becomes 62, then 70. The numbers grow dizzy, almost unreal. Reporters write about faith again, and families gather around televisions like it's 1956. But under the applause, there's a whisper, a question that refuses to disappear. Are they too strong, too fast, too good? The rumor becomes a chorus, and the chorus becomes history's footnote. Barry Bonds steps onto the stage next. He doesn't chase fame, he chases precision. Every pitch looks slow to him, every mistake punished. He hits 73 home runs in one season. 73. The crowd is awed, confused, entranced. The record books crack under the weight of disbelief. You want to celebrate, but something feels hollow. The cheers sound different now, as though even the fans can sense the bargain being made. Tests begin, committees form, and suddenly the word enhanced replaces heroic. Newspapers turn forensic. Names appear, fade, return again. The story becomes less about home runs and more about the chemistry behind them. Yet, paradoxically, the stadiums stay full. People still come even knowing. Maybe because knowing makes it human. Maybe because belief doesn't die from doubt, it adapts. Through all of it, grace still finds a way to surface. In New York, Derek Jeter plays the game with surgical calm. In Boston, Pedro Martinez bends physics. In Atlanta, Greg Maddux makes poetry from control. These men remind you that truth in baseball is not one story, but a spectrum. Then, in 2004, the impossible finally happens. 86 years of ghosts vanish into autumn air. The Boston Red Sox, the cursed, the almosts, the heartbreakers win the World Series. You hear the city's sigh echo through centuries. From Babe Ruth's curse to Dave Roberts' stolen base, it all folds into one long moment of forgiveness. People cry in bars, in kitchens, in cemeteries. For one night, Boston becomes a prayer answered. Elsewhere, Barry Bonds faces cameras instead of fastballs. The Senate holds hearings. The Mitchell Report begins. Baseball's laundry is aired under fluorescent light. It is not graceful, but it is honest. You can feel the shame, the weariness, but also the stubborn dignity of a sport that refuses to die of its own mistakes. The same headlines that once declared triumph now print repentance. The myth cracks, and through the cracks something real shines through. The late 2000s bring a quiet redemption. New heroes rise, not perfect, but steady. Ichiro Suzuki collects hits with the rhythm of rainfall. Albert Pujols becomes a model of grace and power. A generation raised on scandal learns how to love the game again, this time with eyes open. In 2007, Barry Bonds passes Hank Aaron's home run record. The moment feels conflicted, heavy with context. Aaron watches from his home, a quiet nod. No bitterness, just the patience of a man who understands history always corrects itself. By 2009, you sense the air shifting again. Reporters speak less of muscles, more of math. Front offices whisper about data, efficiency, and algorithms. The romance of the home run gives way to the precision of percentages. But before the next era begins, baseball pauses. The lights dim across 100 fields. The generation of power hitters fades into memory, and the sound left behind isn't scandal, it's applause. Soft, complicated, but real. You stand in the aisle of a quiet ballpark after the final out of the decade. The scoreboard glows faintly. The players walk off, some forgiven, some forgotten. You realize the game has survived yet another storm, as it always does. Baseball doesn't cleanse itself with denial, but with endurance. It waits for time to rinse away its mistakes. And in that patience, you recognize its secret, the same one that's carried it through a century of chaos. It endures. You take one last look at the field, then glance upward at the press boxes where men with laptops now study numbers instead of legends. A new language is forming, a new faith built from data. The age of myth is fading, but the story isn't over. The world of baseball is about to turn digital, and through that transformation, you'll see it rediscover something older than math, the soul that numbers can never measure. You wake to the glow of screens. The ballpark looks familiar, but something has changed. The dugouts are filled with tablets instead of tobacco. The air hums with data. It is 2010, and baseball has entered the age of numbers. Every swing is tracked, every pitch recorded. Tiny sensors whisper secrets that players never knew they were keeping. Launch angle, exit velocity, spin rate. The poetry of the game has learned a new language, decimal and digit. You watch a batter step to the plate. The broadcast shows not just his stats, but his predicted probability of success. It feels strange seeing destiny expressed in percentages. Baseball, once romantic, now sounds like a science experiment whispered through grass. The front offices transform. Old scouts with notebooks make room for analysts with models. Equations replace intuition. Moneyball. Once rebellion is now doctrine. Every player becomes a value proposition. Every decision has a graph behind it. You can feel the tension between heart and logic. Managers talk about expected outcomes instead of hope. Players chase ideal launch angles instead of childhood dreams. The sport that once ran on gut feeling now runs on algorithms. And yet, the ball still arcs the same way through sunlight. There's beauty in precision too. You see it in Clayton Kershaw's perfect curveball, in Max Scherzer's relentless control. You see it in Mike Trout's impossible consistency, a human machine built on quiet excellence. He plays without spectacle, only grace. You watch pitchers sculpt air like sculptors. The seams of the ball carve invisible paths. Slow motion reveals miracles once missed. You realize data doesn't kill wonder, it magnifies it. The numbers are just another form of awe. Still, the game feels different. Defenses shift like chess pieces guided by heat maps. Batters glare at outfields arranged by probability. Singles disappear. Home runs dominate. It's efficient, but something essential begins to slip away. Fans argue about it in bars. Old-timers shake their heads. You can hear them mutter about launch angles, as though the word itself were an insult. The divide grows between those who feel and those who measure. Then, in 2016, the impossible happens again. The Chicago Cubs win the World Series. A century of curses ends in a rain delay and a prayer. It doesn't matter what the odds were. It doesn't matter how many models were run. The only statistic that counts is joy. You watch grown men cry in Wrigleyville. People call their grandparents. Bars stay open all night. It feels ancient and brand new at the same time. Numbers can't predict catharsis. Baseball drifts through the 2010s like an old river finding new banks. Analytics deepen, but so does awareness of what can't be graphed. Fandom itself becomes data clicks, trends, shares. The game exists as much online as on dirt. Then, in 2020, the world stops. The stadiums fall silent, seats covered in tarp, no chants, no vendors, no children on shoulders. The pandemic turns the diamond into an echo chamber. You remember those months like a dream. Cardboard fans in the stands, recorded cheers piped through speakers, players bowing to cameras instead of crowds. Every hit sounds lonely. Every win feels like a question. And yet, baseball endures. It adapts again. Masked umpires, shortened seasons, empty bleachers, but full hearts. You realize the game's strength has never been perfection, but survival. When fans finally return, the first cheer feels like thunder after drought. The air trembles. Children's laughter replaces static. The game exhales. It has weathered another century's storm. By the early 2020s, technology touches everything. Automated strike zones flicker on screens. Virtual reality replays let fans stand beside their heroes. Even the grass has sensors beneath it, measuring humidity and bounce. Baseball has become half sport, half simulation. But through all of it, something old remains untouched. The smell of hot dogs, the warmth of an evening crowd, the sudden stillness before a pitch. You realize that the game's soul lives in those pauses, not the data points. New stars rise. Shohei Ohtani, a pitcher and hitter in one. The closest thing to myth the modern age can offer. He breaks the algorithm, proving that joy still outweighs prediction. Every swing, every strike feels like a glitch in logic, a reminder that wonder isn't extinct. Fans cheer for reasons no spreadsheet can explain. A diving catch, a kid getting a foul ball, a late inning comeback that defies probability. Baseball has returned to where it began, not in perfection, but in surprise. And yet, you can sense another shift on the horizon. The future hums just beyond the scoreboard. Artificial intelligence runs the numbers now. Simulations predict entire seasons before they begin. But no machine can feel the weight of a home run in October. No algorithm knows what hope sounds like. You stand in a modern ballpark surrounded by LED screens and digital ads. It is sleek, beautiful, unreal. And yet, when the pitcher sets, when the crowd holds its breath, you could be anywhere in history. The rhythm hasn't changed, neither has the heart. Baseball, after more than a century of reinvention, has proven the simplest truth of all that meaning cannot be measured. It can only be felt. You take one last look around. The lights shimmer across metal and glass. The numbers flash. The graphs dance, the charts predict. But when the bat meets the ball, the sound is still the same as it was in 1903. Wood, wind, and wonder. The age of numbers fades to silence. The scoreboard goes dark, and you feel, in your bones, that baseball's next story won't be written by math, but by memory. You wake to the sound of nothing, the rare kind of silence that feels alive. The stadium is empty, but the ghosts have stayed. You can feel them in the air, drifting between the seats, lingering near the dugouts, soft as breath. It is not the past anymore, not the present either. You stand somewhere between innings, a place beyond scoreboards and clocks. The lights are dim, the field glows faintly, and the chalk lines look like veins in the heart of time itself. You walk the base path slowly, feeling 100 years beneath your feet. Every step hums with memory. Here, Ruth rounded third. Here, Jackie stole home. Here, a child caught a foul ball and believed in miracles. The dirt carries all of it, every cheer, every heartbreak, every breath. The seats are filled with echoes. Voices from every decade overlap like harmony. Vendors shouting, announcers laughing, fans praying in disbelief. It's not noise, it's history, singing softly to itself. You look up at the press box, where the old storytellers used to sit. Their microphones are gone, but their words still hang in the rafters. You can almost hear them, melodic, rhythmic, as if the game was their scripture. Beyond the outfield wall, the city hums with new lives, new games, new names. But the sound of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the stillness before a pitch, those have never aged. They are constants, like breath, like gravity, like grace. You think of every hand that ever threw a ball, every child who waited for a father to come home from work, just to play catch until the sky went pink. You think of sandlots, fields carved from alleys, makeshift bases drawn in chalk or hope. You realize it was never about the stadiums, never about the records. It was always about belonging. Baseball was never the national pastime. It was the national memory, a ritual for reminding ourselves that life, like the game, is a series of chances to begin again. Every inning, another start. Every loss, another lesson. You can feel the pulse of the centuries now. The first World Series of 1903 still flickers in the distance. Boston and Pittsburgh under soft autumn light. You see the dead ball era strategy, the roaring Twenties rebellion, the wars, the broadcasts, the domes, the strikes, the scandals, the silence. Every age still circling the same diamond. You smile because you understand it now. The game never changed. Only the stories we told about it did. Every generation rewrote the same poem with different names, different heroes, the same heart. You sit in the bleachers and close your eyes. Somewhere in the distance, a bat cracks. The sound is small but true. You can almost smell the dust lift from the infield. A voice, maybe a memory, maybe your own, says the words you've waited to hear since the story began. Play ball, and the century begins again. The crowd returns, the lights bloom, the pitcher sets, and time circles back to where it started. You open your eyes. The field is endless now, stretching past eras, past lives, past endings. You realize that baseball has outlived everything meant to contain it. War, money, scandal, technology, and still it finds a way to mean something simple, something human. A boy in 1903, a girl in 2025, both looking up at the same sky after the same sound, the universe repeating itself in rhythm. The scoreboard flickers, then fades. There is no final inning, no last out. The game, like memory, is eternal. You stand, hands in your pockets, and watch the field dissolve into starlight. The grass turns to galaxies. The bases glow like constellations. And you finally understand why baseball survived the century. Because they never really belonged to time at all. You take one slow breath, then walk toward the exit. Behind you, the echo of a crowd rises one more time, cheering for no one in particular, just the joy of being here. You pause before stepping into the night, turn once more toward the field. The diamond still glows softly, as though the past refuses to dim. You whisper a quiet thank you to the players, the fans, the dreamers, the keepers of score. Then you step out into the cool dark and carry the sound with you. The sound of bat meeting ball, of breath, meeting history, of endings turning gently back into beginnings. And the game, as always, goes on. The crowd is gone now, but the echo lingers. Every cheer that ever rose from a grandstand still floats somewhere above the lights. The field is dark, but you can still trace the baselines in memory. They glow faintly, like constellations drawn on earth. The air smells faintly of rain and cut grass and warm pretzels. You realize you've been here before. In every decade, in every story, baseball was never about time. It was about return. You think of the first pitch in 1903, tossed into autumn air that's still falling somewhere. You think of all the laughter, all the heartbreak, all the people who watched and believed. You remember the feeling of being part of something that keeps going, even when the lights go out. Somewhere, a radio hums softly in a garage. Somewhere, a father and daughter toss a ball in the fading light. Somewhere, a voice says, "Bottom of the ninth," and a heart listens just to hear what happens next. The diamond fades, but its rhythm doesn't. It beats under everything, the streets, the cities, the dreams. You close your eyes. The game continues quietly, patiently, forever. The crowd fades, the lights dim, and history dreams again. Sleep well, champion of time.